In 1970, a man who identified once the plane took off, the quiet-looking man went into the media. But it took many tips before informants finally defeated a series of mysterious bombs. The massive blast killed 168 people, including... On a November afternoon in 1971, a man who identified himself as Dan Cooper bought a one-way ticket on Northwest Orient Flight 305 from Portland, Oregon to Seattle. Once the plane took off, the quiet-looking man wearing a business suit told a flight attendant he had a bomb in his briefcase, and that he was hijacking the plane. His demand? $200,000 in used notes and 4 parachutes. In Seattle, he exchanged the plane's other passengers for the ransom and ordered the pilot to take off again in the direction of Mexico City, and to fly slowly. Then Cooper donned a parachute and jumped out of the plane, somewhere near Nevada, with the cash. Thus began the Bureau's most famous unsolved case. Cooper was never seen again in spite of an extensive search. In 1980, a boy recovered a rotting package of money that had been part of the ransom, but the Bureau's investigations into 800 or so suspects proved fruitless. The case remains open. In 1974, the FBI took a lead role in investigating the kidnapping of heiress Patty Hearst, including helping her family try to distribute the ransom, $2 million of free food her kidnappers had demanded they provide to the needy. But it took a lot of legwork and many tips before informants finally caught up with Hearst, who had decided to throw her lot in with her abductors, a band of domestic terrorists who called themselves the Symbionese Liberation Army. When the FBI finally found Hearst, who had renamed herself Tanya, they weren't rescuing a kidnap victim. Instead, they charged her with bank robbery and other offenses. Sentenced to 7 years, she served 2 and eventually received a pardon. The FBI began investigating a series of mysterious bombings in 1980, after one of the homemade devices exploded in the cargo bay of an American Airlines flight, and another device was sent to the president of United Airlines. The FBI, teaming up with postal inspectors, quickly noticed design similarities between the 2 bombs. They also found links to similar attacks throughout the 1980s and into the 1990s. Of the 16 incendiary devices placed or sent between 1978 and 1995, many caused severe injuries and 3 proved deadly. Since the bomber used scrap materials and left few if any forensic traces, by the mid-1990s all the Bureau had to go on was a rudimentary profile. Only when the agency and the Justice Department greenlit newspaper publication of a 35,000-word manifesto by the so-called Unabomber did a social worker named David Kaczynski alert the FBI to similarities between the screed and the thinking and writing style of his brother Ted. The FBI led the team sent to arrest the Unabomber at a remote shack in Montana, discovering a live device ready to bail under his bed. Kaczynski pled guilty and died in prison. On the morning of April 19, 1995, a truck exploded outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. The massive blast killed 168 people, including 19 children, injuring hundreds more and causing about a third of the large office building to simply collapse. It was the single worst case of domestic terrorism in American history, and while the FBI helped to identify and locate the bomber, Timothy McVeigh, within 2 days, it would require a complex investigation to convict him and his co-conspirators. A total of 28,000 interviews provided insight into McVeigh's motives and movements. The FBI also reviewed some 3 tons of evidence. McVeigh, convicted of the crime, was executed in 2000.